Hello, I'm Jean-Michel Grosjeu and welcome to my channel. Welcome to the second video in my series about the complete rule set for Space Empires, Jim Crone's famous 4X space game published by GMT Games. In my first video I gave you a glimpse of the very beginning of the game. You start with just your home planet surrounded by unexplored hexagons, but with the help of your scout ships, letters SC, you can explore these hexagons and discover what they hide. In fact, you know in advance what you're going to find. What you don't know is where you'll find it and in what order. Overall, 80% of what you'll find is planets and minerals, and what we are going to see now with this second video is how to exploit these resources to build the foundation of your empire. So, the first resource we can exploit is minerals. But unfortunately, the scout ship that found this token cannot do anything with it. The only way to exploit minerals is to send a mining ship. And guess what? At the beginning of the game, each player owns one mining ship on his home planet. During his movement phase, yellow player can move his mining ship one hexagon. And then, it's free but not mandatory, the mining ship can load the minerals on board into its cargo holds. One mining ship can carry one minerals counter and only one. We'll see later that it can also carry other types of counters, but each time the rule is the same, it can only carry one counter. Then, once loaded, he cannot jettison it into space. His only possible action is to go back to his home planet during a movement phase and unload it there. The minerals token is, so to speak, attached to the mining ship. When we see how to fight in a future video, we'll learn, for example, that if a mining ship is destroyed, its cargo, the minerals token it's carrying, is destroyed with it. Now, having unloaded its minerals on its home planet, the mining ship is empty. It can then go back and get another minerals token, which the scout ship would have found elsewhere in the meantime. The previous minerals counter remains on the home planet, waiting to be used. The home planet can store as many minerals counter as you like, there's no limit. Note that loading or unloading is a completely free action and is part of movement. And that's it. That's the job of the mining ship, to go back and forth to load the ore floating in space and bring it back to its home planet. Okay, but then what happens? You remember the sequence of play. Each player in turn moves all his units and then explores if there are face-down tokens on their hexagons. Well, in addition to that, every 3 turns, so after all players have done this 3 times, there's a spatial phase called the economic phase. During this phase, players simultaneously manage their production businesses all at the same time in no particular order. And the first thing to manage is the collection of what is called CPs, construction points. This is what the 5 on the minerals counter means. During the economic phase, each player collects all the minerals points that was unloaded on his home planet. In our example, yellow player earns 5 CPs. The minerals token is immediately discarded, and note that yellow player doesn't earn any CPs from the minerals token still aboard his mining ship. He will cash them in, at best, during the next economic phase in 3 turns, which is exactly the time it takes for the mining ship to go back home. And that's it! You know one way to earn construction points. With scout ships, you explore space for minerals, and with mining ships, you load the minerals and bring them back to the home planet, where it is cashed in at the economic phase. And you need both types of ships to do this because, unluckily, mining ship cannot explore. And remember that when a ship enters an unexplored hexagon, exploration is mandatory. But a mining ship does not have the ability to explore. So this means that a mining ship cannot enter an unexplored hexagon on its own. It must be accompanied by a ship with the ability to explore, like a scout, for example. Fine, but as minerals tokens are discarded when consumed, if you do the math, at best, you'll collect 11 times 5 equals 55 construction points over the whole game. Okay, you can also steal minerals from your neighbors, and also we'll soon see that you can find minerals in greater quantities in deep space. But still, we'd like to have a more reliable source of construction points. Guess what? It does exist, and this source is the planets themselves. You've probably noticed on the home planet tile, it says 20. That means that the planet itself generates 20 construction points, 20 CPs at the beginning of each economic phase. So, unlike minerals, it's not a one-shot deal, but a regular income for the rest of the game. It's much more interesting. And of course, you cannot help dreaming that it could be the same with every planet you discover through exploration. Well, you're right, but it's a little more complicated than that. To exploit a planet you've discovered, you must first colonize it. In this example, a yellow player scout ship has just discovered the planet Arcturus. He places the Arcturus tile on the board, but leaves the Arcturus counter on top to show that the planet has not yet been colonized and is not yet producing CPs, construction points. In order to colonize the planet, brace yourself, you need yet another ship, the colony ship. And of course, at setup at the beginning of the game, each player gets 3 colony ships on his home planet. During his movement phase, yellow player can advance a colony ship 1 hexagon, and so in our example, after 2 turns, 2 movement phases, the colony ship arrives at Arcturus, and yellow player immediately switches the Arcturus token for this colony ship, showing that now planet Arcturus is being colonized. But colonization is a process that takes time, and it all happens in the economic phase. Remember the sequence of play. Every 3 turns, there's an economic phase. This phase begins with the collection of construction points. In this example, yellow player collects 20 points from his home planet. Whether he has colony ships or not, of course, he doesn't need to colonize his own home planet. And he collects nothing from Arcturus, which is currently being colonized. But at the end of the economic phase, all planets undergoing colonization advance 1 step in their colonization process. The colony ship counter is replaced by a gray colony counter with a value of 1 CP1 construction point. The colony ship is left underneath as a reminder that it's yellow player who's colonizing this planet, and then we leave it alone for 3 more turns. And in the next economic phase, first the colony produces 1 construction point, then it moves up another step. The token is flipped to his 3 CPs side, and you can notice that since CPs are collected before colonies are increased 1 step, this yellow colony produces only 1 CP before being flipped to its 3 side. And 3 more turns later, next economic phase, the colony produces 3 construction points and evolves to its final stage. The colony counter is discarded along with the colony ship. The colony is now definitive, producing 5 construction points every economic phase, that is, every 3 turns. Note that a planet officially becomes a colony as soon as a colony ship settles on it. And from this moment on, even before producing its first CP, the new colony gets some abilities. You already know one of them. It can stock minerals token that a mining ship can unload on it. And in the economic phase, it transforms these minerals into CPs, construction points. You don't have to bring minerals back to your home planet. Every colony can stock and use these minerals. Note that if a planet had been colonized by red player, even in the middle of yellow territory, this is an aggressive move, but it can happen. A red colony ship is left on the planet to show that it is producing CPs for red player. So, to sum it up, colonizing a planet requires 3 steps, each lasting 3 turns. And the whole process consumes 1 colony ship. Think of it as a group of colonists who settle on the planet and stay there ad infinitum. So, it's easy to see why the game gives each player 3 colony ships at the beginning of the game. This advance allows you to colonize 3 planets. Of course, otherwise it would be too easy. Colony ships cannot explore, so there's always a need for a scout ship to go and discover the planet first, before sending a colony ship to populate the planet and make it productive. Now, I'd like to show you this new panel that summarizes what a player gets at the beginning of the game. His home planet, of course, the one that earns him 20 CPs on each economic phase, and on this home planet, 3 scouts, 1 mining ship, and 3 colony ships. And let me remind you that you place your home planet anywhere in your system, the one with your color, and the other 25 hexagons in this system are randomly filled with face-down tokens that must be explored. Well, now we know how to collect resources, and with each economic phase we earn CPs, construction points. Okay, that's fine, but what's the point? Well, you guess, now that we collected some construction points, we are going to spend them on building new units and equipment. Purchasing takes place during the economic phase, just after you've collected your construction points, and then it's very simple. The game provides a ship card, some kind of menu with all the ships and equipment we can buy, and of course you can find the units you already know with their cost. You can buy 1 scout ship for 6 CPs, 1 colony ship for 8 CPs, and 1 mining ship for 5 CPs. Easy. But as soon as you buy a unit, you must build it and immediately put it into play. You cannot store a unit off the board for later use. And in order to build a unit, you need a shipyard. First, a shipyard doesn't fly. It's a structure that orbits close to the planet, the home planet or a colony, and doesn't have rockets to travel through space. In game terms, a shipyard never moves. Its only purpose, but a very important one, is to manufacture the units the player buys with his hard-earned CPs. Let's take an example. This is the economic phase. Yellow player earns 20 CPs from his home planet, and with them he can buy whatever he wants from the units we already know. Let's say he buys a scout ship for 6 CPs, and guess what? It happens that each player begins the game with 4 shipyards on his home planet, a shipyard token with a 4 counter underneath to show there are 4 shipyards. And why 4 and not just 1? Because each ship has a size, and a shipyard can only build 1 ship of size 1 every economic phase. Here it's okay because a scout ship has a size of 1, so the first of the 4 shipyards on the home planet is enough to build 1 scout ship. Then, yellow player can decide to build a second scout ship, since he has 3 other shipyards. He puts a 2 counter under the scout token to show that there are in fact 2 ships in his little fleet. That's a total of 12 CPs spent, and with the remaining 8, he buys a colony ship which he can build with his third shipyard. And that's it. He has spent all his construction points to build 3 ships, 3 size 1 ships that he can produce on his home planet thanks to his 4 shipyards. And this is how you manage production. You generate CPs, you spend them, and you produce what you bought on your shipyards. Now I'm going to digress for a moment because I just mentioned a point that deserves a closer look. For now, we know 4 units: scouts, mining ships, colony ships, and shipyards. And for 2 of these units, we saw that they can form a group. A group is a ship token with a gray counter underneath showing the actual number of that same unit in the group. The maximum value for this gray counter is 6, so the maximum group size is 6 units. If I need 10 scouts, for example, I can use 2 counters, 2 groups of 5, and I can make change as I like. For example, I can split these 10 scouts into 3 groups during my movement phase. It's free, I don't build any new unit, I just organize them differently. It's very convenient, but there are exceptions. Some units cannot form groups, and we already know 2 of them, colony ships and mining ships. In both cases, these ships never use gray counters. For mining and colony ships, 1 token always represents 1 ship and only 1 ship. And note that the number of counters for each type of ship is limited. For example, each player has only 4 mining ship tokens available, but 6 scout tokens. And as each mining ship token represents only 1 ship, this means that a player can only build 4 mining ships, whereas a scout token can represent a group of up to 6 units, so a player can build up to 36 scout ships. If you want to build a ship but you've run out of counters, you can always scuttle and discard an existing ship anywhere on the board to free up its token. Okay, now it's time to ask some key questions I'm sure you are dying to know the answer to. You need shipyards to build new units, that's fine, but how do you build shipyards? Shipyards have a construction cost of 6 CPs, and they can be built anywhere on your home planet or one of your colonies. In other words, you don't need a shipyard to build another shipyard. For example, Yellow Player has discovered planet Arcturus in his system. He has sent a colony ship there, and as soon as the colonists set foot on the planet, so as soon as the colony ship token is placed on the planet, Arcturus officially becomes a yellow colony. During the economic phase, a Yellow Player earns 20 CPs from his home planet, and Arcturus does not yet produce anything. However, if he wants to buy a shipyard, he can put it immediately on Arcturus, which is already a colony. Perfect, but there are limits. You can only build 1 shipyard per planet during an economic phase. So here, with these 20 CPs, Yellow Player could have the capacity to build 3 shipyards, but the maximum he could build is 1 on Arcturus and 1 on his home planet, Vasir. And second restriction, he cannot use the shipyard he's just built to build another unit. Here he can build nothing this turn on Arcturus and only 4 ships, not 5, on Vasir. In other words, brand new shipyards cannot be used immediately during the same economic phase. Now let me show you a last example to reinforce all these new rules in your minds before going any further. This situation happens early in the game. Yellow Player begins with his home planet, 3 scout ships, 3 colony ships, 1 mining ship and 4 shipyards. Turn 1, movement, everyone gets moving, 1 hexagon per ship. Then, exploration, 2 minerals discovered. Turn 2, movement continues. The mining ship picks up the minerals on its hexagon and flies back to the home planet. Then, the scouts do their exploration, a single minerals token, but 2 planets, that's quite good. 2 colony ships are just on the right spots and can immediately start to colonize their planets. Round 3, the scouts continue their exploration and the mining ship goes back to space to find more minerals. But it won't have time to bring back more before the economic phase. Exploration, minerals, and another planet, but the last available colony ship is not on the right hexagon and it won't be able to start colonization. Then, after 3 turns, it's the economic phase, which begins with construction points collection, 20 points for the home planet, plus 5 points for 1 minerals counter, for a total of 25 points. The minerals token is consumed and therefore discarded. And now it's time to spend those resources on new ships. They must all be built on the 4 shipyards on the home planet, so no more than 4 new ships, as for now all possible ships have a hull size of 1. Let's say yellow player buys 2 mining ships because he needs them to bring more minerals. He immediately puts them on his shipyards, then he buys another shipyard for future construction. Now that he has 2 new colonies, Arcturus and Aldir, along with his home planet, he has 3 possible choices for setting up his new shipyard. He chooses Aldir. Finally, he buys a colony ship to replace those he used in his new planet's colonization process, a colony ship that he must build with his home planet's shipyard because Aldir's shipyard is brand new and cannot manufacture anything this turn. Yellow player then stops his purchases with just 1 CP left in his wallet. Fortunately, each player has a special sheet to keep track of all this. Round 1, first column, yellow player earns 20 CPs from his home planet, plus 5 points from minerals, for a total of 25. And then he spends 5 plus 5 plus 6 plus 8, that is 24 CPs for 2 scouts, 1 shipyard and 1 colony ship. And after all that, 1 unspent CP remains, which the player can keep for the next economic phase. All unspent points are transferred to the second column at the beginning of the next economic phase in 3 turns. And for all the other lines in the table, LPs, RPs and TPs, don't worry, we'll deal with that later. So when all this is done, at last we can move on to the colonization progress phase. And that's it. Now you know what the beginning of a Space Empires game looks like, and from the next video onwards, well, we'll consider that you're not alone in the universe. You've got enemies who want the end of your empire, since that's the whole point of the game, and so from the next video onwards, we're going to learn how to fight and improve your war fleet.